Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome and good evening. You're all kind of trickling in. Okay. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. This is our second Compost Town Hall session of the day. We are looking forward so much to hearing your ideas about what the North Country needs to support a thriving community scale composting culture. Just a few housekeeping items. We're going to have a short presentation, and then we're going to follow that with a discussion where you can offer feedback and ask questions. We're a nice small group this evening, so during the question and discussion portion, if you're comfortable doing so, we ask that you turn on your camera, and we'll maybe call on people to unmute, and we can just have some face-to-face interaction through the computer. You can also, let's say if you're in a very crowded airport or a very loud area and you need to use the chat function, we're understanding of that as well. During the presentation, we ask that you leave your microphone muted if you can, so we don't hear those dogs barking in the background too much. So I'll start by introducing myself, and then I'll introduce the Compost for Good team, and then we're actually going to ask if everyone here is comfortable introducing themselves. We'll do a quick little round before the presentation so we can get to know each other. I'm Christina Hartzell. I'm the communications coordinator for ADK Action. We're an Adirondack-based nonprofit organization that creates projects to address unmet needs, promote vibrant communities, and preserve the natural beauty of the Adirondacks for all. ADK Action projects include reducing road salt, expanding pollinator habitat, building sustainable food security in the region, just to name a few. The Compost for Good team of John Culpepper, Katie Culpepper, and Jennifer Perry came on board as an official ADK Action project a couple of years ago with a goal to help Adirondack communities turn food and other organic wastes into high-quality compost. Today, the Compost for Good project is kicking off a year-long USDA grant project to support organics upcycling business development in the North Country. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jen Perry and John Culpepper of Compost for Good to introduce themselves.
Thanks everyone for joining us. I'm John Culpepper, one of the co-founders of Compost for Good. You will not see Katie Culpepper. She's sitting perched on top of the rock in front of your screen there. She has a new baby and she is just taking her home to put her to bed.
Great, and I am Jennifer Perry, also a co-founder of Compost for Good. You're going to hear a lot from me in the next 25 minutes. So I said open up to, if anybody would like to introduce themselves, feel free to unmute yourself. We'd love to hear if maybe we already know you, but other folks on the call maybe don't, who you are and why you're on the call, which you're affiliated with. So if anybody would like to introduce themselves, if you're kind of shy, feel free to put something in the chat. That would be helpful too.
Go ahead, Bill.
So Bill Myers, I'm with Casella, and I'm the market area manager covering Clinton, Essex, Franklin, and St. Lawrence counties, primarily from the hauling side, but do have oversight at the Clinton County landfill.
Great.
Excellent.
And why don't we go with our other Bill, William Domenico.
Bill, you need to unmute yourself.
Oh.
There we are. Sorry, I was having technical difficulty. Yeah, my name is Bill Domenico. I'm one of the owners of Blue Line Compost, located in Saranac Lake. We collect food waste, we compost it, and we've been doing that now for about 18 months.
Whoever wants to go next.
I'm Jossie. I just recently moved back to Peru, New York, after a bit of time away. But I was recently this summer in Vermont and partaking in a vermicomposting business called Black Dirt Farm. And I've been composting since I was a kid. My parents have taught me how to do that. but with the way of the world right now, I almost feel like it's my calling to bring a composting service to my local community. And yeah, I'm here to learn how to bring that to fruition.
Welcome.
So I'm Sean. I actually work with Bill at Casella. I help manage the Clinton County Solid Waste and Recycling Program, which includes the landfill in Clinton County. We also have transfer stations up that way, and at the Clinton County landfill, a small yard waste and brush pile. So that's my background.
Great. Thank you.
I'm Connie Perry, and not related to Jennifer, but but sorry, I can't get my photo to work, or the video, so you're stuck with the picture. But I live down in Inlet and have been a part of the Inlet Community Task Force, and we're also aligned with the Climate Smart Community Thing, and we've done a gardening project over the last year and a half or so, and so we're very interested in composting, both for the garden, the community garden, and as a bigger thing. Working with Jeremiah Best, if anybody knows Jeremiah.
Sure.
Yeah, okay, so he said he's got some stuff going on, and so I just like to kind of catch up with what all is out there, and I'm sure we'll be having some meetings soon to discuss what direction we want to go in. Love to see a more community-based thing as opposed to just doing something for the garden.
Thank you, Connie.
Welcome.
Anyone else? We have a latecomer also. So we were just introducing ourselves as if we would like. Otherwise, we can get going and we can have more chat after the presentation.
Excellent. So last chance if anyone else wants to introduce themselves. Otherwise, I'm going to dive in. Perfect. Okay, great. So again, I always find that really helpful to hear who's in the room, because most of the time the people in the so to speak audience are way more experienced and knowledgeable than we are. So it's fun to learn from who we're speaking with. John gave a little bit of an overview of Compost for Good. I'm going to talk a little bit more about who we are and what we do and how we do it in the next several slides. But this is the three of us, and John's way of introducing us, quite simply and quite honestly, is that we are three people who are very passionate about composting. So, and we're very, very fortunate to be partnering with EDK Action as one of their projects. It's a complete honor to be in the presence of all the other amazing, impactful projects that they have going on. So Compost for Good is, like we said, it's a project. We never really quite know how to define ourselves, so we don't really try. We can tell you more in terms of what we actually are doing. Our goal is to spark a revolution in community scale composting in northern New York State and beyond, or as John Culpepper says, world domination, which we're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. So we typically offer technical assistance, education, and advocacy for basically any organization, institution, resident, business who is interested in community scale composting. I'd say probably the vast majority of what we do involves John being engaged with folks who reach out to us on a daily basis, asking questions, where John will engage with emails. We frequently will host site visits, tours. We will go to farms, go to other facilities to do consultations, etc. One of the focuses of what we've done and pretty much how we started is, and I'll explain this in a few minutes when we get into the history, is that we, through John's work at North Country School Camp Treetops, have designed a in-vessel drum composter, which we will speak more about shortly. You may have heard about it. You may have affiliate Compost for Good with that drum composter, and it certainly is a big part of what we do, but it is not the only thing that we do. We are dabbling a bit in advocacy because there are some pretty interesting pieces of legislation that are out there that are that hopefully will help promote and facilitate composting in the future. And just for terminology's sake too, we use the word composting, but we also use the word organics upcycling or organics recycling. So those things all in our minds are pretty similar. John is extremely passionate and very involved in human urine composting, which he will, anybody that wants to talk about it, he'd be happily speak with you about human urine composting and all of the potential that lies there. He's doing some incredible research and some trials. Slaughterhouse offal, which is offal being the body parts left over from slaughterhouses. And the one that always gets eyebrows raised is the composting of human remains, which has to be enabled legislatively, which it has been in Washington State and Colorado, and there is legislation pending in New York State at this point in time. So, excuse me, more on that also in a little bit. And the last thing that we do, not so frequently, but it's starting to become more of what we do, is paid consultation. We really are not in this to make money, but we have been finding requests to travel quite a distance and to offer a pretty high degree of technical assistance that goes beyond the grants that we have. So we do have options for paid consultation as well. This is a timeline into, there's going to be a few slides here that have a lot of words on it that I will not be reading all of the words because these slides are going out to be available, so folks I'm sure can read. But I do want to highlight that this whole process really started in about 2015 when John at North Country School Camp Treetop said, I have an idea. And his idea was this affordable, locally built drum composter that NYSERDA, we were able to get funding from NYSERDA through the North Country Association, INCA, to fund one drum composter, and it did so well that NYSERDA said, well, here's some more money to do 3 additional units. And so we now have 4 of these composters operating in the North Country. It's very exciting. And from there, we've established, we had so much interest, so many people contacting us saying, hey, you know, we want to find out more about community composting, that we, at that point, formed Compost for Good and partnered with 80K Action. And from there, we're able to get some grants to continue doing what we had been doing for a few years for free. So that brings us to this most recent grant, which is a USDA Rural Business Development Grant. And so a lot of us probably on the call are familiar with composting. We probably all have our reasons for why we understand composting or organics recycling is important. But it's a growing body of evidence in terms of the real true breadth and depth of what composting organics can actually do for communities in general. There's a broad range of benefits, and we're learning about them increasingly every day. And I'll let John, I'll have you chime in a bit here, because this is one thing that John is incredible at. So if you would like to speak a bit to the benefits of composting, would love to hear a bit more about that.
Sure. I just want to highlight bullet point number 2, more and more data coming out about soil's ability to actually sequester carbon out of the atmosphere and sequester that carbon for, in some cases, under the right conditions, for hundreds of years. So when we think about our carbon sinks on planet Earth, the world's oceans is the #1 largest carbon sink. But it turns out that soils are the #2 carbon sink. So there is an enormous capacity to hold carbon, pull carbon out of the atmosphere in soils that are managed for that purpose. And compost has a lot to do with that.
Great, and like I said, the science on that is evolving on a regular basis, and it's very exciting. So to the point of the part of why we're hosting this opportunity, we have received a grant from the USDA, as I mentioned, and we were very fortunate to have been awarded the 2nd highest graded proposal in New York State, which we're pretty excited about. And just to be clear, the target counties for this grant are Clinton, Essex, Franklin, and St. Lawrence counties. However, that's just the focus of the grant. We certainly will work with anyone who contacts us. In fact, we are dealing with folks in Belize, Mexico, Guatemala. John, you mentioned earlier, I didn't know about even
The
California.
Netherlands, yeah.
Yeah, this is something that has definitely gotten interest from around the world, and it's really very exciting. But our focus will be those 4 counties. But someone in the earlier presentation asked, she was not in those 4 counties, but was curious if any of the materials developed will be available, and they absolutely will be. We are all about open source. That we just want more people composting. So I wanted to point out that our vision too for business development are the diverse, distributed, and community scale. That is something that whatever it is that we're doing, that's what we always come back to. We are very interested in partnerships and folks being supportive of each other. And we're finding that sort of evolving organically on its own as people learn about each other and communicate with each other. And we certainly, there's a lot of talk this afternoon about how we can really build that peer-to-peer network in the North Country. So that's a very important outcome of this project for us. John, anything to chime in on?
No, not for the, oh yeah, sure. There is a lot of support for backyard composters, for commercial scale composters, but there just isn't that much support out there for community scale. And that covers a broad range of operations, but typically it's somewhere between the backyard composter and the large industrial commercial composting. And so that's where our sweet spot is. That's where we like to work, and that's where the greatest need is as we see it. And so that's where we really are most impactful.
Perfect, excellent. So I did want to point out the first sentence in the narrative here on the slide is that we did design this project to launch in coordination with the New York State Food Donation and Food Scraps Recycling Law, which some of us on the call are familiar with, that will start in 2022. So we do recognize and believe that the launch of this law will pose tremendous amounts of untapped opportunity for business development in the North Country. And I also just want to share my own personal philosophy on business. I feel like when I think of businesses, okay, yes, we have to make money, but my personal philosophy is, if we start with the question of what is it that my community needs, and then we build from there, that we'll have a better, more successful business. So I just wanted to share that perspective. So when we were drafting our proposal, we were spending a lot of time trying to think about what types of business opportunities there were out there, that some of them have been tapped, some of them have not been tapped, some of them have challenges that need to be overcome, and we're committed to helping overcome some of those challenges. So here's a list of what we came up with. We would love to hear from you, whether through the survey that we're going to be sending at the end of this presentation, or as we get into our discussion, if there's something we are missing. One of the more interesting aspects that I wasn't really thinking about was the software developers. We have a relationship with an individual who is getting awards all over the place for some tracking software that he has developed. So that's one element of a business opportunity that I hadn't really thought about. So there might be something that you all have heard about that we'd certainly love to hear more about. So pretty specifically what we'll be offering I'm actually going to jump to this next slide because this is a little more specific. We will be continuing with our technical assistance. So this is if you are a business that you have some questions, you would like to learn more, you'd like to connect with somebody else, you'd like to have us come to a site visit. We envision a pretty hefty involvement with regional farmers, many of whom have expressed very strong interest in starting or improving on their current composting programs. We will be drafting and writing case studies and best practices. So we maybe would be highlighting some businesses in the area or even out of the area who have been successful in that process would be pulling out some challenges that we can certainly be working on. We will be developing business plan templates. So if somebody wants to start a business, one of the first things they do is a business plan, so we can help out with that. And back to this in-vessel composter part, and this is, I think, perhaps one of the more exciting elements of this project, is that we were able to get funding to select somebody, a regional manufacturer, to build a drum composter. It will be fully paid for, which is, again, really exciting. However, whoever we do select to do this will be, they will be required to have folks in there with a camera if people wanted to come tour it. The whole point of this manufacturing process is to encourage and educate others who might want to also build one. The point isn't to have an in-vessel composter that then goes someplace. The point is to teach others and inspire others who might want to also build them. They might also want to build other composting equipment. Maybe there's a certain kind of a windrow turner that's specialized for the North Country. So we really want to spur manufacturing around composting and as needs evolve. And the last piece of that is that before we select this manufacturer, we will have updated our in-vessel composter design, which is pretty close to being done. So and John, if you want to speak for a few minutes about the design and the composter in general, and while he's talking, I'll just have a couple of pictures up so that we can get a better sense of what the drum composter is about.
Sure, thanks. The picture on the top left there is the second iteration of the design that we came up with. And what we're working on now is a design. And so you can see in this model, there's a fair bit of welded parts, and we are attempting to design a composter that has no weld joints at all. All the metal pieces are bolted together. The idea is to create business opportunities for folks who can build these things and then ship them out off location. What I'm really excited about is the idea of putting designs out in the world, and these designs are free and available to anyone who has an interest, and letting others tweak the designs to meet their needs. And we're seeing that in a lot of different locations. We mentioned Mexico, California. There's a guy out in California that took this design, made a 5-foot diameter unit out of it, like Jen will talk about the one that she built. But he is processing food scraps really rapidly to create a feedstock for vermicomposting. So this in-vessel unit that he's building off of our design is to create a better, more stable feedstock for his vermicomposting operation. So it's very exciting. The fellow out in the Netherlands is building several at the moment, and he's using the stabilized organic material that comes out of the drum for growing mushrooms. And he is in the business of helping other businesses in growing and selling mushrooms. So really exciting. We haven't come up with the best design in the world. We know that there's a lot of tweaks on this that people can make to better meet their own particular needs.
Great. And so just to clarify too, that what's exciting to us is that there are several of the drum composter that John and a man named Greg LeClaire from Jay designed and built, operating beautifully, performing magnificently, holding up over time. There's another one that has been sited at a flower farm that came from Canada. Incredible, beautiful design as well. And my partner John and I modeled ours off from both of those designs, and we built a 5-foot diameter by 20-foot length. And you can see John Culpepper and I high-fiving because we didn't really know it was going to work, and it did. It worked beautifully. So and John talks a lot about the ability of the composter and the design to be something that can be built pretty much anywhere, and to minimize welding. I will say that the one that we built, it is a steel drum, and there's a lot of welding that went into it. but my partner is a mechanic, and he was fully able to construct this unit pretty nicely and in a very efficient way. The drum part we had fabricated for us, but the rest we pretty much did on our own with a welder and a cutting torch. So it was an incredibly fun project. We are now operating it. We process about 2 tons of food scraps per week. I'm sorry, I said that last time, I think wrong. 1 ton, 2,000 pounds of food waste a week, plus another ton plus of sawdust as our carbon source. And the beauty of the drum composter is it really can go anywhere. We designed it to be sited in a 40-foot shipping container, which several of the other units are sited in. That works beautifully. What's really exciting is we put food scraps in one end and it comes out in a dark decomposed state. It's not fully decomposed in about 14 days, depending on the exterior conditions. So it's a pretty exciting process to watch. And you know, any of these are available and open to if anybody would like to come see them and learn a little bit more. Anything else on the drum composter, John, before we
Oh, nope.
move on? Okay, fantastic. All right, so we're getting close to the end of the yak part, which is our part, and we really would like to hear from everyone on the call, and could happily share some of the perspectives that came up in our earlier meeting. But we do want to share some legislative updates. We do try to track these as best we can, although we rely pretty heavily on our partners at the Organics Council and the U.S. Composting Council. So the one we talked about, and these are all hyperlinks, so when you get your slide decks, you can feel free to browse on any of these different links. But we did talk about the New York State food donation and food scraps law that is happening in January. We can offer that the DEC will be selecting a statewide contractor to support the rollout of this law. We don't know yet who that will be, but there will be support for businesses and others who are trying to navigate this whole entire process. There is also a federal law that is a lot of people are pretty excited about. So the cultivating, it's a pretty long acronym, but they made it work. Cultivating Organic Matter through the Promotion of Sustainable Technologies Compost Act. That is also proposed. As I mentioned before too, there's a piece of legislation that will enable human body composting. Lots of interesting conversations from there. And a tangential but related act that we just heard about called the Soil Health and Climate Resiliency Act. So what we do offer as well on a regular basis. We will upload and update legislative updates on the ADK website. So that's another resource that we offer. So currently, this is a list, by no means is it comprehensive, but these are existing organics businesses in the North Country that we're aware of. You can see there's a pretty broad range of who they are and what they do, and we have some of them on the call today, which is fantastic. And we're going to hopefully hear from one of them right now. So Bill Domenico, we invited Bill from Blue Line Compost to chat a little bit about their business and their experiences in the North Country. So Bill, you want to unmute yourself? We'd love to hear from you.
Sure. Yep. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So like I said earlier, my name is Bill Domenico. I'm one of the owners of Blue Line Compost. We officially organized in May of 2020. We pick up food waste from residential, commercial, and some institutional clients. We have a DEC registered compost facility on Route 3 right outside Saranac Lake. I would say going into this, my business partner and I thought we had a pretty dialed in plan for how we would, facilitate the pickups, do the hauling, make the compost. And I will say that since we live in a rural environment, rural area, we're constantly changing how we do things. And for anyone that's looking to get into this business, I would just say, be flexible and be willing to evolve, especially since this industry is so new. I'm not sure this area really knows how it's going to do, food waste recycling in what that will look like in 5 to 10 years. So we're excited to be part of it. We're excited to help bring it to the North Country and I'm pleased to report that we're growing month by month, and the communities here seem to want this available to them.
Great, thanks, Bill.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill.
Fantastic. Great. So this is the part where we'd love to hear from you. So these are the reason we're seeking your advice is because we certainly have experience, and we're gaining experience and awareness every single day. But again, the way I started this presentation, that we feel that the folks on the call have just as much, if not more, to offer back to us. So we just want to make sure that whatever it is that we're offering is impactful and helpful. So we are very much looking for feedback and advice. Here are 6 questions that are in a survey that will be linked if you get the slide deck. But Christina, I think you're going to put it in the chat, and it definitely will be something that you receive at the closeout of the meeting. Feel free to share the survey too once you get it. We are happy to have it shared broadly. So those are the specific questions we're asking. If anyone has anything along these lines that they would like to offer. But earlier today, it just turned into a really nice open conversation where folks brought up topics on their own. We asked a few pointed questions. So John, if you have anything else to add in the presentation side of things, otherwise feel free to put your question in the chat, or if you would like to unmute yourself, raise your hand. Raise your hand on the Zoom part. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I'd just like to piggyback on that and add that we believe that there are enormous business opportunities for the North Country and beyond in the processing organics. And if you were to tally up all of the organics that Bill and Jen and others are collecting in the North Country, and Casella probably doesn't represent a very large percentage. We have lots and lots of work to do, especially at the community scale, and especially on-site composting. On-site composting is where an organization, a farm or business organization, whatever, sites a composter right on their facility, minimizes transportation, minimizes their carbon footprint. And we're particularly pleased to support those sort of businesses, other businesses as well. But there are so many opportunities around creating different kinds of composts for different applications, different kinds of community scale compost related machinery. Right off the top of my head is we are looking to create a simple, safe, and effective way to grind or to mash up all of the feedstock before it goes into whatever compost operation is out there. And we're also looking for, we have one design that Bill Domenico's partner came up with to sift the final product after the composting process. So both of those for retail and wholesale purposes are really important. By mashing or grinding the material, the feedstock, before it goes into the composter, you can very significantly reduce the retention time in whatever compost process, whether it's in vessel or aerated static pile or windrow. And therefore you can process more organic material more quickly. And there's a lot out there, and I could talk for days on just the nutrients that we are wasting right now in the form of human urine. So don't get me started on that unless you've got days.
I need to get you started on that, John, because I received an email during this from someone who was unable to attend but had a question that they would like posed, and it's just too good of an opening. Jennifer Jennifer was asking, and knowing that you've been doing work with composting human urine, is there any future where she lives in a yurt with a composting loo, she says, and she wants to know, will it always be unsafe, unhealthy to compost waste from a composting toilet? Like what could that be composted?
Yes, as we probably all know, throughout most of human history, we've considered human waste and waste from other animals as well, not as waste, but as a valuable resource to grow food to feed ourselves. There are challenges with using human waste. The challenges are minimized if there's urine diversion ahead of the process. In other words, if urine is skimmed off and composted by itself, it's safe, effective, easy to do, and it creates a beautiful finished compost. Ultimately, we need to get, as a society, I believe, all over the world, past the point of thinking that our waste and other wastes need to go buried somewhere or treated in some expensive wastewater treatment facility. While wastewater treatment facilities are one of the greatest inventions of modern society, they are expensive, they're wasteful, and they don't break down pharmaceuticals, which is an important part of this. Composting is through a high temperature process, breaks down lots of compounds that aren't broken down in conventional wastewater treatment plants, and also creates temperatures that kill off 99.9% of human pathogens. And if you can get to that point, you're in business. So for anyone who is interested in composting from a compost toilet, I would say be careful. There are a lot of challenges there, but if you want to pee in a bucket and separate that, that's easy, simple, safe, and effective. The solids are also valuable, but take a little more care. Most of the nutrients that we excrete are in our urine. About 80, 85 to 90% of the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are in our urine. And so I believe we can do a much better job of diverting urine, processing that on its own. And by the way, this is something that's happening around the world. There are a lot of researchers out there who are developing effective techniques for processing diverted human urine. They tend to be on the technical side. They tend to be overly complicated, these processes. Some are somewhat expensive. The process that we've come up with is super easy, super simple, and highly effective, and creates in the end a product that also reestablishes the organic material in the soil. And that's a huge thing that we need to focus on as a society, is putting back into the soils the organic material that has been lost through modern agricultural and other horticultural practices.
Excellent.
So I hope that helps.
I think it does. That was really interesting. Thank you.
Christina, were there any questions in the chat?
Nope.
Okay, great, thanks.
So maybe
but I did throw a link. I did throw a link to the survey in there just in case anyone is looking for it. We will also email it out afterwards.
Oh, perfect.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
Would it be okay to minimize or to stop screen sharing so that we can see everyone's faces, and then we can have a conversation like we're in a room together? Awesome. Thank you. So this is meant to be open forum. You can ask. There are absolutely no questions that are dumb questions. Some of us in the small room here have been in this business for a long time. Others maybe not. And so feel free to engage.
So one question I have for you all, if anybody would be willing to respond one way or another. We had the great fortune of having the DEC at our previous presentation, and I had a nice exchange with her, Christine, after, and she was, based on some feedback that we got from a couple of participants, including one farmer, was thinking that they could offer, that the DEC could offer some trainings in the area. She was specifically talking about for farmers, but the concept of there being trainings in general, certifications, etc. Is there anybody in the call that thinks that they would be interested in something like that? Would that be a helpful thing? Awesome. I apologize.
What's the nature of the training? Is it actually like how to composting 101, or
no? It wouldn't. It would be targeting this scale. It wouldn't be like backyard composting. It would be somebody. So she specifically, there was, and I apologize because it didn't click and it didn't cement in my head what the training was, but it would be, one was a multi-day opportunity. I don't know if anybody, John, you got it before, but the Institute of
Local Self-Reliance, ILSR.
That organization, they offer some pretty in-depth deep dive webinars as well, but this would be something topically. So, and it's certainly something that we could funnel back to the DEC. So Bill, for example, if you wanted to do like compost operator 101, or how do you walk me through the permitting and registration process, something, so they certainly would be responsive to what we asked of them to provide, but they were very interested in offering those levels of training. But no, it wouldn't be composting 101. It would definitely be scaled. If you're one thing that just seems to be grabbing a lot of people is farmer based education too. So one thing that we have realized is that while the composter, the unit, we do not generate food scraps, but we are hauling them and operating it, and it works. It's clunky, but it works. But the sweet spot for the composter is if you are a generator and you're processing the food scraps on site, because then you kind of eliminate the hauling middle piece. But it could be equipment manufacturing, it could be equipment in general, it could be different kinds of community scale composting.
Here's a question that kind of links to the farm aspect. I'm not clear on where the state is with with animals feeding off of food waste that's collected, and like chickens grazing over food waste that's collected. I've heard different things, I've read some different things. Do you all know, like, are farms allowed to divert things that they collect over to the animals that that are part of their operation?
Yeah, Bill, I would say that any question that relates to the DEC is best answered by folks from the DEC, but I can tell you that there are a lot of farms that do this, and some are registered with the DEC. I don't think that the DEC has any issue with collecting and feeding animals until you get to a certain volume or certain mass. Mm-hmm. Then you have to be a registered or even permitted facility. But a lot of that is happening, and that's great. It does. The food scraps don't end up in the landfill, which is the last place we want them. But I think we can do a better job of diverting many more organics out of the landfill for animal feed, for composting, for food donations. There are a lot of challenges out there, and we need lots and lots of solutions. And so let me just take this opportunity also to say that there are a lot of other resources that have a lot of material. Jen mentioned ILSR, the US Composting Council does an incredible job. The Pollution Prevention Institute in New York State has incredible resources. Compost for Good has lots of resources, but there's a lot of stuff out there, and enough to be daunting for those who are just getting into the business, for sure. So I'll leave it at that.
Great. And I apologize. I have a friend named JC, and so your name is JC in my mind, but can you remind me of how to say your name? I was going to ask you a question.
It's Jossie.
Jossie. Okay, excellent. You had raised your hand. Is there a kind of training or certification that you think that you would seek, or that would help you, or are you able to answer that?
I think I have just an overwhelming amount of questions, and I actually honestly don't even know what direction I think I should be heading. But I'm just curious how I can go about starting a compost business, whether that's me certifying an LLC business for myself, whether I create a branch of like local government that will help fund a composting project, or whether I start partnering with local farms that have like space to start conducting a project like this. But yeah, I'm looking to get training and also find job opportunities where I can earn a living teaching people and providing a composting service at a community scale in my community. So I feel very just new to all of this as far as starting something for myself in a career path like this. So really any kind of training I'm open to.
Yeah.
That's great. A lot of people are in your place, Jossie. A lot of people are really interested, but just can't figure out how to go from step A to step B to step C. We got people in the room
here. I just don't have like, the financial means to do so.
Yes. And so one of the things that we're doing at Compost for Good is we are actively seeking out funding opportunities for both our little organization and for others. There is a grant, a non-competitive grant right now through the New York State Pollution Prevention Institute that will fund up to 44% of the total build out cost of any compost operation. And we have, Jen has taken advantage of that. Linda at Little Farmhouse Flowers recently acquired a composter through that grant. Nice. And we've worked with others to help them be aware of that grant. But Jossie, feel free to reach out. I think our contact information is at the end, and we would be more than happy to set up a phone chat with you. But there are others in the room who could help as well, perhaps.
Awesome. I feel very supported just by being on this call.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah, and part of what we hope to, we feel like we've already contributed to it, but we hope to nurture and kind of blow oxygen onto the embers of a composting community, where there's a lot of exchange and folks automatically know who others are, and we know you've got what you have, and maybe you can go work for somebody for a little bit to gain experience, or maybe exactly what you just said, that we just heard from the Village of Canton earlier, and they have a campus or a municipal sustainability committee, and they have food scrap donation recycling pickup places in the village. So there's what we really hope to continue to do is just weave threads and connect people. We also talked a lot earlier about peer-to-peer relationships, and again, one farmer who is a little bit overwhelmed by the DEC process And I was sharing, Bill, I didn't use your name, but that having conversations with Bill and Carter, who we call Bill Carter, affectionately, that just talking to them about what they went through was really, really helpful. So we're hoping to continue to nurture that kind of an environment up here where we're all helping each other out to the best of our ability. Jonathan from White Rainbow Farm was on earlier, and they aren't going to be able to compost. So he's like, hey, I got a guy with brewery mash. Do you want it? And I was like, yeah, I want it. So, I'm getting 1,000 pounds of brewery mash a week. So, and yeah, they're definitely
which is good eating for a in-vessel composter.
Oh yeah.
They like that stuff.
She likes it a lot. Excellent. Any other kinds of trainings or certifications that or anything like that you feel would be helpful, or you or somebody that other entities, businesses?
I think you hit it right on the head, is just making those connections. I think with composting growing in this area, finding the proper feedstock, I think, is going to continue to be the hard thing, especially to do it in a way that is business smart. So finding people that want to get rid of things is definitely going to be helpful, I think, for everybody in this business.
Yeah, Sean, that's a great point. And but we've seen it over and over again where we go from it's hard to find feedstock to next thing you know, there's competition for feedstock. There's a lot of anaerobic digesters that are coming online that are consuming lots of organics. This is really good stuff, making biogas, generating electricity, clean, green electricity from this. There's a lot of big commercial operations. Casella is one, and we celebrate them and support them. But there are so many, once people realize that, either they realize that it's smarter not to, either they realize that it's a good thing to compost their organics, or they're required to by law. And I believe, my personal opinion, that New York State is heading toward in the same direction that other states in the Northeast. That is, they begin with making sure that large-scale generators of food waste are required to do something different with their food waste. And then it will go to intermediate level generators. And I believe we'll get down to the residential scale, just like Vermont did. How many years ago, Bill? 2, 3 years ago, Sean? Do you know?
I'm not sure when. I think you're probably referring to the Bennington facility.
No, the state, the Vermont now requires all organics.
Oh, the
all the way down to the resident.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. That timeline sounds about right.
Yeah, it's either a year, 18 months ago, something like that. But I believe that's where we're headed. It may take New York State a while to get there, but each time new regulation comes down that liberates a lot more feedstock, creating more opportunities for growth in this sector. And so we're really pretty excited about that.
Now, how much of what you do is focused on businesses in this category, and how much is it communities or smaller entities, like the town of Inlet?
The grant is, we're just always trying to find somebody who'll pay us to do what we love to do, and we're doing anyway. The grant is a business development grant, but by no means is that what we do. I'd say it's probably a minority of what we do. We definitely we would be more than happy to work with the town of Inlet. We believe that there's a huge amount of opportunity with municipalities, especially when y'all have access to grants like the Climate Smart Communities grants and other types of grants. There's a lot of we're kind of going down the path of water quality too, and the impacts that increased rates of composting can have on water quality. And John just shared a list of communities who got water quality grants that we feel this would be a fit with that as well. So yeah, we'd be thrilled to work with you.
Thank you.
So great. Well, I am going to share back our, feel free if there's any other questions or feedback for us, but I am going to share the final contact slide so that you know how to reach us. And this is a list of the we spoke about before, the general types of things that we offer. But if you have anything related to community scale composting, reach out. And if we can't help you, we certainly will know somebody that can help you. So, but if are there any other questions, comments, feedback? John, if there's anything you wanted to add?
No, just thank you to all of you for taking time this late in the day to sit with us for an hour. We really appreciate that, and we'd love to stay in contact with you.
John and Jen, just thank you so much for sharing your time. It's always just such a joy and a pleasure to sit here and watch you mentor people through every size composting and all composting questions. And you always kind of just have an answer and are connecting people. And I really appreciate all that you are doing for the community, I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christina.
Thanks. That means a lot.
Yes, thank you for all of your enthusiasm and knowledge that you share around composting.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's exciting. Great. Well, please fill out the survey if you can. It's not long, and feel free to share it widely so we can do the best we can to meet people's needs specifically. So.
And we'll be sending out a copy of the slides and a copy of the recordings of both sessions and a copy of the survey again, probably tomorrow. So just in case you missed any links.
Excellent.
Great. Everyone have an excellent evening. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Good night now.
Yeah.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you.
I know.